I was standing in my driveway at 7 in the morning, exhausted and sweating despite the 15 degrees weather when Brenda Morrison came storming across the street like an angry penguin in her designer parka. I had just finished shoveling 2 feet of snow from my driveway and had piled on my front lawn like any normal person would do. The snowstorm had hit Sterling Heights, Michigan overnight, and I had been out here since 6 o'clock, trying to clear enough space to get my truck out for work. My back ached. My fingers were numb even through my gloves, and the last thing I needed was a confrontation with a neighborhood self-appointed sheriff. "Excuse me, Robert Daniels," she shrieked, her voice cutting through quiet morning air like a circular saw. "What do you think you are doing?" I leaned on my shovel and looked at her, already knowing this was going to be a ridiculous conversation. Brenda had been the president of the Meadowbrook Estates Homeowners Association for 3 years, and in that time, she had made it her personal mission to make everyone's life miserable. She was in her late 40s, had the kind of haircut that screamed, "I want to speak to the manager," and wore enough jewelry to stock a small pawn shop. Shoveling snow. "Brenda, same thing everyone else is doing this morning," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "You cannot pile that snow on your lawn like that. It is unsightly and against HOA regulations." She pointed at the mounds of snow I had carefully placed on my own property, away from the sidewalk and street. Section 12, paragraph 4 clearly states that all snow removal must be done in accordance with aesthetic standards. I stared at her. "Brenda, it is snow. It will melt. Where exactly am I supposed to put it? That is not my problem. You need to haul it away or spread it out more evenly. This looks terrible and brings down property values." She had her phone out now, taking pictures of my snow piles like she was documenting a crime scene. "I am not hauling away snow from my own property." "That is insane," I said, turning back to finish the last section of my driveway. "If you do not remedy the situation immediately, I will have no choice but to call the authorities," she threatened. I actually laughed at that. "The cops. You're going to call the police because I shoveled snow into my own yard." "Yes, I will. This is a violation, and as HOA president, it is my duty to enforce our community standards." She had her hands on her hips now, her face turning red despite the cold. "Do whatever you need to do, Brenda," I said, dismissing her as I went back to clearing the last few feet of my driveway. I heard her huff dramatically and stomp back across the street to her house. I should have known she was not bluffing. 20 minutes later, as I was putting my shovel away in the garage, a Sterling Heights police cruiser pulled up in front of my house. A young officer got out looking confused and slightly annoyed. "Morning, officer," I said, walking down my driveway to meet him. "Let me guess. Someone called about snow." The officer, whose nameplate read Patterson, looked at his notepad and then at me with an expression that said he really did not want to be here. "Sir, we received a complaint about illegal dumping of snow on this property. Are you the homeowner?" "I am Robert Daniels. I own this house. That is my lawn. I shovel my driveway and put the snow on my own property," I explained, gesturing to the perfectly reasonable piles of snow. Officer Patterson looked at the snow, then back at me, then at the house across the street, where I could see Brenda peeking through her curtains. "Let me get this straight. You shoveled snow from your driveway onto your own lawn." "That is correct." He closed his notepad. "Sir, that is not illegal. That is just shoveling snow. I am sorry someone wasted your time and mine with this call. The woman across the street is the HOA president. She said it violated some regulation," I said. Officer Patterson side-eyed. "HOA disputes are civil matters. Unless you are blocking the sidewalk or creating a hazard, which you are clearly not, there is nothing illegal happening here. Have a good day, sir." As the officer walked back to his car, Brenda came flying out of her house, still in her parka. Officer, wait. He is in violation of our community covenants." Patterson turned, and I could see his patience was already worn thin. "Madam, HOA rules are not criminal law. If you have a dispute, you need to handle it through your HOA procedures or civil court. Please do not call 911 for non-emergencies like this again." Brenda's face went from red to purple. "This is an emergency. He is destroying our property values. Madam, have a good day." Officer Patterson said firmly, getting into his cruiser and driving away. I went inside thinking that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next week, I received 3 written notices from the HOA. The first was a formal violation letter stating that I had breached Section 12, Paragraph 4 of the Community Covenants regarding winter maintenance and aesthetics. I was given 14 days to remedy the situation or face a $50 per day fine. The second letter, which arrived 2 days later, informed me that my violation had been escalated due to my refusal to cooperate with HOA directives. The potential fine had now increased to $100 per day. The third letter was a notice that the HOA board would be holding a special hearing regarding my property, and my attendance was mandatory. I had been ignoring most of the HOA's nonsense since I moved into the neighborhood 2 years ago. I paid my dues on time, kept my lawn mowed in the summer, and generally stayed out of trouble. But this was getting ridiculous. The night before the hearing, I was in my home office going through old documents when I stumbled across something interesting. When I bought the house, there had been a thick stack of paperwork, most of which I had skimmed and filed away. But now, looking more carefully, I found several surveys and property documents that I had never examined closely. My house was on a corner lot, which was part of why I had bought it. It had a larger yard and more privacy than the other homes in the development. But according to these old surveys, my property line was not where I thought it was. I spent the next 3 hours digging through county records online, cross-referencing property documents, and making phone calls to the county clerk's office the next morning. What I discovered was absolutely incredible. The original developer of Meadowbrook Estates had gone bankrupt halfway through construction. When my house was sold out of the bankruptcy proceedings, there had been some confusion about exactly which parcels were included in the sale. According to the recorded deed, I did not just own my house and lot. I owned my house, my lot, and the entire strip of land that made up Oakwood Drive, the street that ran in front of my house, and continued for 2 more blocks, including the section right in front of Brenda Morrison's house. Technically, Oakwood Drive was a private street, and I was the sole owner. I could not believe it. I immediately called a real estate attorney named Michael Chun, who had helped me with the purchase. When I explained what I had found, he asked me to send over all the documents. 2 hours later, he called me back. "Robert, you are not going to believe this, but you are right. You own that street," Michael said, and I could hear him shuffling papers on his end. "It looks like when the bankruptcy sale happened, the street was included with your parcel because of how the lots were.